Single dad's touching gesture for a struggling girl reveals an incredible CEO transformation. Jake's world tilted the moment he saw Lily, his daughter, staring blankly at the scattered canvases in the hot afternoon sun. The local art gallery's vibrant colors had a way of pulling people in, yet today, that pull was agonizing. Her shoulders slumped, face shadowed by self-doubt. She was beautiful, but that didn't matter here. In Maplewood, beauty meant nothing without social media likes or designer labels. The weight of his 100-hour workweeks pressed on Jake's chest. He was a mechanic, hands stained with grease, living paycheck to paycheck, all while trying to be a good dad. What qualifications did he have to guide an artist? He wasn't even sure he could afford the supplies for her, let alone an art class, and Lily didn't shy away from voicing her frustrations. "Dad, you don't understand. Everyone I know is taking these classes in New York," she had said, her voice firm but tinged with desperation. And Jake, what could he say? His own dreams shoved aside for practicality, he felt a rising tide of fear and anger. A mechanic's life, he thought, was not enough. He questioned whether he could offer her the guidance she needed when he felt like he barely could keep up with the bills. Every day, he dreaded a world where his daughter's art would be overshadowed by someone else's wealth. He can't let her drown in self-doubt like he did. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake caught the fleeting look of longing in Lily's eyes. She yearned to be in that gallery, to see her creations displayed without fear or judgment. "What if I took a job there?" he blurted out one night, a spark igniting in the labyrinth of his weary mind. The prospect of late-night painting sessions shifted something deep within him, the idea felt foreign yet liberating. Could he really bring out her creativity as he wrestled with his own frustrations? Then doubt came crashing in. What if he failed? What if he was just a mechanic, forever boxed in by others' perceptions? Could he truly turn those flickers of hope into flames? And what if he lifted Lily's spirits only to let her down again? The weight of judgment loomed over him. What would those familiar faces think of Jake, the mechanic turned amateur artist? As he ran his hands over the various tools of his trade, he felt the pressure mount, each turn of the wrench tightening the grip of his insecurities. Standing at this crossroads filled him with a sickening nervousness. Would taking this leap of faith mark a turning point in their lives, or would it just bring forth more insurmountable challenges? Dark thoughts swirled, and as he lay awake on sleepless nights, he couldn't shake the feeling that failure beckoned. He was scared of replacing one burden with another. As Jake prepared for the art gala that was a mere weeks away, the stakes couldn't have been higher for him and Lily. Would he finally rise from the shadows of mediocrity, or would this be the moment where their dreams tragically unraveled, knotted in uncertainty? The fear coiled around his heart, filling every corner of his mind with trepidation. He breathed deeply, knowing the world was watching, teetering between past failures and future hopes, a world where the honor of truly loving and supporting his daughter waited on one final act of courage. The air crackled with tension, and the question loomed heavily: could he break free, or would he remain imprisoned by his own doubt? In the days that followed, Jake's hesitance began to morph into a fiery determination. Each morning, before the sun broke over the rooftops of Maplewood, he set out armed with a notebook filled with sketches and ideas. He made a commitment to understand art as best he could, not just for Lily, but to reclaim a piece of himself that had long been dormant. He pulled out his old sketchbook from high school, a relic of a time when spontaneity filled his life. Each line was a connecting thread to who he used to be, a dreamer with a passion. Dust floated in the sunlight as he leafed through the pages, rediscovering faces and landscapes born from imagination, not obligation. This nostalgia filled him with a mix of excitement and anxiety. It was thrilling to reconnect with a part of himself he'd neglected, but it also served as a stark reminder of all he had lost. The weekends now buzzed with activity. He arranged makeshift art supplies from local stores and second-hand shops, turning their tiny living room into a creative studio. Statements of solace emerged on canvas, wild splashes of paint reflecting his turbulent emotions. Each day, he tried not to focus on the what-ifs, but rather on the tangible act of creating. Yet, in those moments of creation, shadows of self-doubt crept back in. He often found himself staring at Lily, her expressive face revealing a cocktail of emotions: anticipation, hope, and at times, a flicker of disappointment. During one of their painting sessions, she paused and looked him directly in the eye. "Dad, you can't just do this to make me feel better. You have to want it, too." There it was, the kind of challenge that ignited an emotional fuse. Could he act with deliberate intent rather than just as a shield against inadequacy? Jake wrestled with this revelation throughout the nights, replaying Lily's words, feeling their weight in his gut. At last, he felt compelled to seek authenticity. He decided to visit the local gallery, to understand the very environment that made Lily's heart race. The smell of oil-soaked canvases and wooden easels greeted him as he stepped through those familiar doors. He was swallowed up by an array of colors and emotions, yet, in that moment, he felt minuscule. The murmurs of seasoned artists and the discerning eyes of gallery visitors whispered insecurity into his ears. What he feared in his heart echoed here. He felt out of place, like a mechanic in a world of maestros, but Jake persisted. He engaged with the gallery's owner, an older woman whose passion was tangible. They shared stories, sparking conversations about meaning, purpose, and the struggle of the artist, conversations that transformed Jake's nervousness into exhilaration. He realized that every artist, no matter their stage, grapples with fear. His past as a mechanic, the mundane practicality, did not define him. Instead, it was a bridge to the artist he was learning to embrace, both for himself and for Lily. Yet, the bitter truth agreed with fear too. Each revelation brought a tsunami of doubt. Was he really going to be able to support Lily's dreams? Did he even know what it truly meant to believe in art? He returned home that night exhausted but enlightened, a flickering flame of hope existing alongside the cold reality of his inadequacies. The following morning, Jake was determined to explore the local art scene further. The more he learned, the more empowered he felt. He unveiled his plan to collaborate with Lily, something she never saw coming. But as he spoke, she gazed at him with an unreadable expression, almost like she was searching for something beneath his enthusiasm. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" "It feels different," she said, her voice steady but laced with a hint of fear. He paused, the implications of her words crashing over him like waves. Was he simply seeking her approval, or had he truly begun to seek his own? As he studied her face, a sense of determination rose to the surface but was quickly shrouded by uncertainty. Jake realized they stood on the brink of something significant. As he prepared to address their next move together, a shadow of doubt returned, like a specter begging for attention. Was helping her pursue art merely a way to mask his fears, or was it the first step on a shared path he needed to embrace? The gallery waited for no one, and the unhealthy mix of competitive energy lingered thick in the air. Could this lead us to a future we never envisioned? Or would it propel us further into a cycle of disappointment? He wondered, heart racing for the future yet unable to fully grasp the reins. With Lily looking at him expectantly, he felt the undeniable pull toward understanding that to truly support her, he needed to confront his own battles head-on. The time had come to confront more than just canvas colors and paintbrushes. It was an internal confrontation looming large before him, demanding answers as vibrant as the brush strokes revealing their family's artistry. As they prepared for their next collaborative project, his mind echoed with a question burning to be answered. Was he ready to break free from the vestiges of self-doubt and fully support not just Lily, but also himself? Jake stood in the small art studio they carved out of their living room, surrounded by half-finished canvases that whispered stories yet to be told. He had spent the previous night trying to formulate a plan for their collaboration, but as morning light poured in through the window, illuminating the riotous colors of paint, his thoughts were tangled. Was he ready to dive deep into this project, or was he still teetering on the edge of merely playing a supportive role? His heart raced as he picked up a brush. The moment felt pivotal. With each stroke, he aimed to embody both the mentor and the student, but the fear of inadequacy lingered like a shadow against the canvas. As he began to paint, he found that he could express his emotions more freely, yet the brush hesitated, unsure whether to venture into bold colors or stick to muted tones. He caught a glimpse of himself in the reflection of the window, alive yet restrained, alive yet questioning. Lily entered, her presence grounding yet invigorating, as she approached him with her own palette. She watched him work, a mixture of admiration and scrutinizing intent on her face. "I think we should use brighter colors, Dad. Let us really go for it." She paused, then added, "Like you did in high school." Those words struck a nerve. High school Jake had been unencumbered, a creator who feared nothing. Adult Jake was drenched in the realities of responsibility and self-doubt. "You're right," he admitted, "but sometimes it's hard to let go of those doubts and just be." The weight of his words hung thick in the air, a mix of vulnerability and longing. Encouraged by her enthusiasm, he abandoned hesitation, allowing vibrant hues to dominate the canvas. A surge of exhilaration flowed through him as colors mixed vibrantly under his brush. Lily joined him, her strokes instinctive and carefree, and soon laughter filled the room, chasing away the doubts that had once felt insurmountable. But still, lurking beneath the excitement, was the gnawing question of purpose. Was this partnership true collaboration, or just Dad trying to live through his daughter's dream? Moments of clarity pierced through his artistic reverie. With every brush stroke, he convinced himself that he was reclaiming lost aspects of his identity, yet a sober realization hit him: was reclaiming his passion enough, or did he owe it to both himself and Lily to build something more substantive from this artistic endeavor? As their project progressed, so did the uncertainty. He began to contemplate showcasing their work at the local gallery. It was a risk, a reflection of both their journeys intertwined. What if they fell flat? What if he wasn't ready for the scrutiny of others? Yet, as he considered this leap, something shifted within him. The conversations with the gallery owner kept swirling in his mind, stories of artists who had wrestled with their fears and emerged victorious. Could he navigate his own insecurities long enough to stand side by side with Lily in front of a crowd? Was he willing to be vulnerable in front of others, all while leading her not just through the process of creating but through the transformative experience of exposure? His gaze fell on Lily, her face radiant with joy, pure in her expectations. In that moment, Jake understood, this wasn't merely about art, it was about confronting the very essence of possibility, inviting others to witness the rawness of their journey. "Lily," he said, his voice firming with newfound clarity, "let us plan on showing our work at the gallery. It's time we let others see what we can create together." The mixture of excitement and fear surged through him, but this time it felt invigorating rather than paralyzing. Her eyes widened, surprise morphing into gleeful disbelief. "Really, Dad? I didn't think you were ready." A fleeting smile broke his nervous facade. "Neither did I, but maybe that's just part of the process. Maybe we'll both learn a bit more about ourselves along the way." As they began planning their exhibition, one thought flooded his mind with urgency and anticipation. Would stepping under the gallery's spotlight forge a new path, or would it unearth hidden doubts he might not be ready to face? In the quiet corners of their living room turned studio, the air thickened with ambition. This journey would not be free from challenge, but perhaps acknowledgement of the risks they were taking was the first step toward transforming vulnerability into strength. With the weight of their ambitions hanging in the balance, Jake wondered, what doors might open, or what walls might break down, as they ventured into the unknown. Jake's anticipation mounted as he and Lily began mapping their exhibition, transforming abstract ideas into practical steps. Pages of sketches sprawled across the tables, a mix of early drafts and brainstorming notes that had once felt daunting now looked like the trailhead to a new journey. Yet, with every plan etched onto paper, his heart intermittently fluttered in anxiety at the thought of public scrutiny. "Lily, let's think of a title for our showcase," he suggested, attempting to wrestle control over his growing uncertainty. They sat together on the studio floor, surrounded by their vibrant creations and the scent of paint mingling with fresh coffee. He leaned back against the wall, momentarily resting, but he felt the weight of his decision settle heavily on his chest, her tiny chin scrunched as she mulled over his suggestion. What about reflections? It's about us sharing our stories and our journey. Her voice brimmed with conviction, igniting something within him. To be known, to share the truths embedded in the visceral colors they splashed on canvas, was more than a daunting task, it was an opportunity to dive deeper into themselves. As Jake nodded appreciatively, he also felt a stirring of fear. Was he ready for the world to see not just their art but his vulnerabilities? He envisioned the cacophony of voices, the critiques and the praise, dislodging his stomach into a knot. This was more than art, this was a testament to everything he had buried under the weight of adulthood. Lily's enthusiasm was infectious, pushing him forward. Each day faded into the other as they worked, brushing paint strokes across their canvases that began to symbolize not just his journey but a resurgence of self. He would occasionally catch her watching him, examining his student-like adherence to the process. Every time, he would feel a warmth bloom in his chest. He wasn't just a support, he was the artist reclaiming his narrative. Then came the moment he had anticipated yet dreaded, publicizing their exhibition. A simple post on social media ignited a spiral of excitement and anxiety. As the Reflections advertisement circulated among friends and acquaintances, Jake felt the corners of his world closing in. Would people come? Would they find meaning in what he and Lily had created? Yet amid the swirling doubts, an empowering thought emerged. He had taken a leap, not just for himself but for Lily. What he feared most, the exposure, could also herald a newfound confidence. He closed his eyes, recalling the rush of color and freedom at the easel. Maybe the responses wouldn't matter as much if the creation process remained rooted in honesty and self-exploration. Days turned into a countdown. Each passing moment felt like a steady drumbeat, urging him to remain steadfast. Together, they positioned their canvases, and for the first time, Jake allowed himself to imagine the gallery, not as a spectator but as a participant. Every wall painted was a step toward confronting his discomfort head-on. That morning, as they entered the gallery, reality succumbed to a surreal haze. Bright lights illuminated their work. Each canvas sprang to life, reaching out not just to him but also to those who would gaze upon them. The anticipation coiled within him like a spring, tight and alive. He glanced at Lily, whose eyes were wide with wonder. In that moment, Jake could feel the challenge mounting. Would they be able to weather the scrutiny? Would they shatter perceptions together, or would he falter under the weight of his self-imposed expectations? As guests began to arrive, doubt wrestled with excitement. The environment buzzed, a living organism throbbing with narratives waiting to collide. With one gaze at Lily's hopeful face, Jake knew they were stepping into the trials of transformation in truth. The question loomed, what awaited them on the other side of their creations? As laughter and conversation swirled around, he dared to take a step forward, ready to share their art, their stories, and his rebirth. And yet, beneath the surface, there was that lingering anxiety. Would revealing his creative spirit forge a new bond with Lily or highlight his failures as a father? The moment of truth approached. As the gallery filled with laughter and conversations, Jake felt an electric charge in the air. Guests mingled, their voices blending into a hum that feasted on his nerves. Each new arrival was a reminder of the scrutiny he feared. He couldn't shake the sensation that each eye cast upon him was dissecting more than the art before them. Do you think they'll like it? Jake voiced his worry to Lily, who stood by his side, her gaze flitting from one canvas to another. She met his anxious stare with an unyielding resolve. They will if we believe in it, Jake. We poured our hearts into this, she replied, the conviction in her tone resonating like a drumbeat, stirring something deep within him. Her belief was a lifeline. Jake inhaled sharply, channeling her confidence into his own trembling spirit. He had cultivated this art as a reflection, a way to examine himself through layers of paint and emotion. Yet, tonight, he was tasked with exposing that rawness to the world. He wandered through the crowd, his feet heavy with anticipation. He began engaging in conversations, speaking about the intent behind specific pieces with the kind of passion he had initially thought he lacked. Each explanation became a small victory, reducing the churning doubt within him. People listened, nodding in understanding, and some even shared how certain artworks resonated with their own experiences. Moments turned into clusters of warmth, a connection sparked by shared stories. The gallery, previously a stage for critique, transformed into a refuge where vulnerability became strength. Jake was discovering that his fear of exposure housed the potential for real connection. Yet, it wasn't just about the attendees. As he observed Lily, a new understanding blossomed. She was the heart of this exhibition, her enthusiasm igniting their work with life. He realized he hadn't merely partnered with her in creativity, he had forged a bond that transcended art. Her journey mirrored his own, a testament to resilience, and her presence reaffirmed his ability to overcome personal pitfalls. Jake found himself in front of a canvas splashed with bold reds and blues, a chaotic yet compelling swirl. With every brushstroke, they had captured moments of frustration, triumph, and rediscovery. He remembered the late nights spent together, laughing while experimenting, or the silent support they shared when ideas fell flat. "Look at this one," Lily joined him, pointing at the projection of colors that seemed to dance under the gallery lights. "This is us reclaiming our stories, right?" He nodded, the depth of the moment sinking into him. The scrutiny he once feared transformed into a desire to share. "Yeah, all those thoughts and fears we had there, right there, and it's beautiful." The realization dawned, their art was a conversation starter, a chance to explore not only their creative depths but their inner selves. Here, dialogue flourished, a stark contrast to the isolation of his previous artistic endeavors. Then, from the corner of his eye, he spotted someone lingering by one of their canvases, a look of anguish etched on her face. Jake approached cautiously. The woman turned to him, her eyes glassy, and she spoke almost in a whisper. "This piece, it feels like you painted my story." In that moment, Jake felt the weight of his identity shift. It wasn't just about him anymore, it was about the impact their work could evoke. Her recognition of shared emotion sparked an ember of purpose within him, a motivation to keep creating, to keep telling stories that resonated with others. But attention shifted again, and the pressure of the crowd seeped back, awakening an internal battle. The opinions of others could both uplift and dismantle him. It was no longer just the art, it was his life, his role as a father, and unfinished pieces of himself that now dangled in the open air. He returned to Lily, questions swirling in his mind. Would this success embolden him, or would it exacerbate the long-standing doubts about his parenting? The thrill of creation was pulsating, yet the chaos of his past loomed large. As they ventured deeper into engaging guests, Jake felt the cliff of his past looming behind him, challenging his newfound sense of self. With a shattering realization, he understood that the real journey echoed beyond the gallery walls. The art was merely the beginning, a proclamation of his rebirth. The moment of truth arrived with a bubbling question: could he embrace this new identity without being overshadowed by his failures? As the laughter and chatter swelled, echoes of potential whispered around him, teasing the edges of his vulnerability. Was he ready to tackle the heart of his past while nurturing his identity as a father? The inquiry hung thick in the air, begging for resolution as the gallery pulsed with vibrancy and life. Jake's heart raced as he navigated the crowded gallery, glancing at the vibrant canvases that seemed to breathe with life. Each piece was a part of him, yet it felt like they were being dissected by sharp eyes and eager minds. He had once envisioned an artist's journey filled with freedom and creativity, but tonight, beneath the scrutiny of peers and strangers, that vision clawed under the weight of expectation. Lily's encouragement echoed in his mind, fueling the fire of determination stoked by connection. He took a deep breath and embraced the moment. Every conversation became a thread, weaving him into a fabric of shared experiences. "I wish I could paint," someone had said, and Jake, for the first time, saw how art could transcend the canvas. It could cultivate compassion and understanding. He wanted to be a part of that, the conduit through which stories flowed. Yet, amidst this awakening, shadows from his past crept forward. He recalled his daughter's smile, punctuated with confusion when asked about her father's long absences. Jake squeezed his eyes shut, fighting the visceral pang of guilt. His art had journeyed through explorations of emotion, but could he wield it to shape a better relationship with her? The nagging thought continued to whisper, mocking his inadequacies. Was he truly capable of being the father she needed? Through the ebb and flow of conversation, he stumbled across the woman from earlier, her face still encased in raw emotion. "You captured my darkest moments," she said, her voice steady now, yet heavy. "It made me feel seen. Like I've finally been understood." Wariness tinged with curiosity blossomed in Jake. "I'm glad it resonated," he replied, his eyes locked with hers. "What do you see in it?" Her hand gestured widely, eyes sparkling with passion. "It's not just your brushstrokes. It's hope. It tells me there's light after darkness. That's powerful." Jake felt something shift within him, a realization that art could be more than an escape, it could inspire change. Her words seemed to shield his vulnerabilities, coiling hope around his heart. If their experiences could weave a narrative that brought healing, perhaps he needed to apply that same principle to his own life, especially as a father. He realized he had begun to uncover that hidden part of himself, the determination to break free from the shackles of doubt, to become more than just a struggling artist, a role model for his daughter. Yet, lingering doubts remained. How to bridge the gap between his identity as an artist and a father? Could he provide her with the reassurance she needed while continuing to nurture his own growth? Lily, observing his contemplative state, stepped forward. "Jake, you have an opportunity here," she encouraged, to show her that vulnerability is strength. "You're not just a dad, you're an artist who can help heal through expression. What if you brought her into your process?" The insight struck him like a lightning bolt. Could he involve her in this journey? It would serve as a testament to his resilience and authenticity. They could create something beautiful together, forging new connections that would help rectify the fracture between them. The prospect stirred a thrill deep within him, a way to pour his heart into both his art and fatherhood, but there was uncertainty, too. Would his daughter even want that? The risk of rejection weighed heavily. Yet, as he glanced around the bustling gallery, he realized that art had the power to bridge gaps, a potential avenue to heal wounds he thought were permanent. The night pressed on, bright conversations swirling around him. But as laughter filled the space, Jake felt the illumination within dark corners of his past, battling for recognition. It was a reminder of the choices he had yet to make. He turned to Lily, determination etched on his features. "We need to create something together, something that shows vulnerability as a strength, something that connects us more deeply." Lily's eyes brightened. "That's a brilliant idea, Jake. It could be transformative for both of you." As excitement bubbled, Jake was swept into a surge of newfound purpose. The gallery didn't just represent the culmination of his artistic efforts, but was the foundation of his commitment to a more meaningful journey, a step toward reconciling his dual existence. But again, the specter of doubt crept in. Would he falter when faced with the reality of his responsibilities? Could he maintain his resolve when faced with his daughter's questions? The gallery swelled with activity, but amid the euphoria, Jake was on the precipice of a decision that could unravel everything he had worked for or transform it into something greater. The artwork surrounding him bore witness to this pivotal moment, and with a rush of adrenaline, he knew he was ready to face his fears. Yet, as the night carried on, another question lingered, echoing with urgency. Was he ready to share this journey with his daughter, inviting her into the depths of his vulnerability while grappling with the monumental task of shaping her understanding of love and connection? The time was fast approaching for him to confront this new chapter of fatherhood, his resolve solidifying as anticipation brewed within his chest, begging for release. The next day greeted Jake with a renewed sense of purpose, each ray of sunlight a reminder of the potential that lay ahead. As he shuffled through his morning routine, his mind was racing with thoughts about involving his daughter in his art. The prospect excited him, combining their worlds felt like a necessary evolution. Yet, anxiety danced in the corners of his mind. Would she understand? Would she want to? The plan was simple. After school, he would pick her up, and they would spend the afternoon in his makeshift studio, where colors exploded across canvases. It was a place of freedom, a sanctuary where the pressures of the outside world dissipated. But today, he felt the weight of an impending introduction looming closer. He arrived at the school just as the bell rang, watching the children spill out, their laughter piercing the crisp air. Jake's heart pounded louder as he waited for Lily, half excited, half terrified of how this moment would unfold. When he spotted her, she was chatting animatedly with a friend, her curls bouncing with each word. She caught his gaze, and her smile illuminated the concerned whispers he had brushed aside. As she ran toward him, a beam of sunshine breaking through clouds, Jake felt a wave of warmth wash over him. "Hey, Dad!" she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. It was the same look he cherished, yet somehow it felt guarded today, as if she was bracing for something. Jake wrapped her in a brief hug, feeling the softness of her little frame against him, the spark of home they had shared pulsing between them like an unspoken promise. "Want to spend some time in the studio after school? I've got an idea I'd love to share with you." The initial flicker of excitement in her expression was quickly shrouded by uncertainty, her brows knitting together slightly. "What kind of idea?" Jake hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "I thought we could create something together. A project that shows how we feel. It could be really fun, and I want us to have that time together." Her small shoulders slumped slightly. "Like a painting?" "Yes, but more than just a painting. I want us to talk, to share. Your thoughts matter to me." After a moment's pause, Lily's hesitation melted into cautious curiosity. "Okay, that sounds cool. But what if I mess it up?" The simplicity of her fear hit him hard. "It doesn't matter if it's perfect. What matters is that we create it together. Remember, it's all about expressing ourselves." His voice softened, empathy pouring through his words. As they embarked on their trek home, Jake felt a dichotomy of emotions: excitement battling guilt. This was his opportunity to bridge the emotional gap that had formed over years, to show her how vulnerability and creativity could intertwine. Standing in his studio, surrounded by paints and canvases, Jake set up the space, but his mind buzzed with questions. How do I lead her into this world without overwhelming her? What if she doesn't connect with it the way I do? His commitment resolved, the lingering self-doubt demanded attention. Could he keep his focus on her feelings while fighting against the temptation to impose his artistic voice onto her own? "Let's start with what you feel," he prompted, leaning against a wall, awaiting her input. She hesitated again, glancing at the array of colors before her. "What if I don't know what to say?" The question pierced through his bravado. In that moment, Jake understood for every stroke he imagined on a canvas, he would need to be patient, to listen more, to facilitate rather than dominate. This was about her as much as it was about him. "Just start with your favorite colors. Tell me what they mean to you," he encouraged, leaning over as if to shield her from past insecurities. As she picked up a brush, Jake watched her transform, fingers moving tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. The studio atmosphere shifted, each flick of color invoked connections he hoped would anchor them as father and daughter, but an unsettling thought lurked at the back of his mind: was he truly ready for everything this new path could unveil? The mixture of trepidation and excitement swirled as he hoped she would find her voice in this collaboration. "Remember, there's no wrong choice," he added, sensing her apprehension. But as she began to paint, an unexpected emotion began to rise within him. Was he opening a door that led not only to new expressions for Lily but also revelations of his own insecurities? The canvas held the promise of growth, but as Jake observed her engaging with colors, the whispers of his past lurked dangerously close. There lay a significant challenge ahead: a confrontation of whether he was indeed able to handle the truths that might surface, for both Lily and himself. In the quiet hum of creativity, he wrestled with lingering doubts. If the art revealed more than just colors, if it unlatched fears and unleashed the authenticity still hidden, would he be able to embrace the profound truths that could emerge? With every brushstroke, they were inching closer to a revelation that neither had anticipated. Jake could only hope he was ready to meet it when it came. As Jake observed Lily's initial strokes, the intensity of the moment swelled within him. He felt a bridge forming, slowly, possibly imperceptibly, yet undeniably real. He fought against the instinct to guide her too forcefully, challenging himself to become a facilitator of her thoughts rather than a projector of his own ambitions. At first, her tentative marks on the canvas flickered like fireflies, shy and uncertain. Jake took a deep breath, aligning his focus solely on her, almost as if he had to actively remind himself of who was leading this journey. Sounds of the world outside faded, replaced by the rhythm of brush against canvas, the scent of paint mixing with fresh thoughts swirling in the air. "What does this color remind you of?" he asked, motioning to the vibrant blue she had selected. She paused, hesitant, her brow furrowing. "It makes me feel like summer. Like when we go to the beach." A simple invocation of memory, but it struck Jake like thunder. In that moment, he didn't just hear her words, he felt the essence of shared experiences pouring into that small phrase. It was a portal, allowing him to reframe their relationship as partners in creation instead of individuals separated by the distance of unspoken fears. "Let us use that feeling," he suggested, his heart racing. "What if we add some sand-colored strokes to show the beach? And maybe a splash of yellow for the sun?" He watched, eyes brightening as she responded positive to the suggestion, colors merging as memories flowed out in vibrant waves. Each shade they mixed deepened the intimacy of their shared space, with each brushstroke, timid enthusiasm turned into burgeoning confidence, yet, as Lily's creativity blossomed, Jake felt the creeping shadows of doubt re-emerging. What if this openness brought forth buried memories in him that he wasn't ready to confront? Painting was supposed to be liberating, yet was it merely unearthing more chaos he had hoped to keep hidden? Suddenly, she turned to him, eyes wide and earnest. "Dad, can I add a big orange sun? I want it to shine bright." He encouraged her to follow her instinct, feeling a mix of pride and wariness at her boldness. The orange illuminated the canvas in vibrant contrast, dripping with her youthful determination. But that very brightness was almost blinding to him. It starkly reminded him of his unresolved fears, the tensions in his past that lay unearthed beneath layers of unaddressed trauma. "It looks amazing," Jake declared, forcing a smile despite the tension unspooling within. "But what does it represent for you? Why is it so big?" Lily's face clouded slightly. "Because I always wanted it to be bigger than everything else," she whispered, almost shyly. Her admission sent another ripple through Jake's mind. Had he imposed those expectations onto her? Had he, in moments of weakness, projected his own cries for validation onto her shoulders? The notion was unsettling. He felt the emergence of something truer, a raw potential that lay just beneath the surface of their joint work, yet he remained paralyzed by how to navigate it. "Let us not just paint that sun. Let us give it rays that mean something special. Something that represents both of us," Jake encouraged, seeking to shift the focus back onto a collaborative dialogue. He leaned closer, careful not to drown out her voice but to harmonize alongside it. This was no longer just an art project, it was turning into a canvas of transformation, each brushstroke a conversation, each color a thread binding them together through vulnerability. Yet as Jake felt himself awakening to possibilities, an unsettling corner of his intuition warned him that this new path bore challenges he had yet to comprehend. The thought of unraveling his past insecurities while guiding Lily made his heart race. Was he truly strong enough to face the truths lurking beneath their fledgling connection? With every evolving stroke on the canvas, Jake sensed he was inching toward a critical juncture, not just as a father to Lily, but as a man confronting his past. He was stepping into a role where being present might mean reckoning with the fears he had long buried. As Lily's enthusiasm grew, Jake realized that in empowering her journey, he was also fated to journey inward. Would he find solace, or would old demons arise in this new exploration? With the studio becoming a battleground for both their creations and confessions, Jake's world flipped. The momentum building around him was both exhilarating and terrifying. The challenge loomed larger. Could he navigate this emotional landscape while ensuring Lily felt safe and steady, knowing that the sun they painted together could both illuminate and expose? He clenched his jaw, staring at their growing collaborative creation. This moment heralded both awakening and confrontation, setting the stage for unexpected discoveries that could either forge deeper bonds or fracture the fragile ones being built. All at once, it hit him, this wasn't just about art. It was about unmasking truths and redefining identities. Would he have the courage to face the sunlight's blinding power? The brush hesitated in his hand, ready to execute a decisive stroke that lay heavier than paint itself. As he stared at the canvas, the tension thickened, shadowed by an unanswered question. With each revelation, would he risk losing what little foundation he built, or would forging ahead lead them both to unexpected liberation? Jake's grip tightened around the brush, a surge of conflicting emotions flooding over him. The canvas loomed larger than life, a reflection not just of Lily's burgeoning enthusiasm but also of his own fractured past. Each stroke felt like an invitation to confront the uncomfortable truths he had diligently avoided. The sun Lily had painted, bold and bright, symbolized dreams he once harbored but buried under the weight of responsibility. "Okay, let us capture that light," he said with a forced cheerfulness, masking the uncertainty lying beneath. With a few deft strokes, he added rays emanating from the sun, each one a representation of their shared memories, the beach trips, the ice creams, the laughter that once echoed in their home. Yet, even as he created, something inside him clenched. He was drawing not just from joy but also from regret. "What do you think, Lily? What does the sun's light touch?" he asked, hoping to prompt her to share more about her vision. "It reaches the water and makes it sparkle," she exclaimed, her eyes shimmering with excitement as she animatedly waved her hands. "Like magic. Magic." The word fell on him like a gentle reminder that possibility still existed. Could painting this scene together somehow redeem the shadows lurking in their past? Jake found himself leaning into the moment, curating a dialogue that felt as important as the strokes of paint between them. "Let us add the water, then. The colors in the water change, right?" he offered, pushing aside his fears momentarily to foster her burgeoning creativity. As she nodded vigorously, he prepped the next colors, following her lead rather than directing. She squealed with delight as she mixed shades of green and aqua, a glimmer of pure joy on her face. Jake tried to mirror that joy, but inside, he waged a war against the memories that clawed at the edges of his composure. "What does the water mean to you?" he probed gently, guiding her to connect more deeply with the theme they were creating. Lily's gaze softened, her expression turning thoughtful. "It's where we relax, where we just float and forget," she said softly. A pang hit Jake, a reminder that these moments were all too rare, drowned out by the weight of adult worries. He understood too well the impulse to escape into those mellow waves, to forget for just a moment. "Do you think we can make this water somewhere we can all forget our worries? A magic place?" She nodded excitedly, and as she danced around with brushes in hand, Jake felt something within him shift. Each splash of paint becoming more than mere color represented moments of grace. He wished to cultivate a safe space where both he and Lily could be vulnerable, even if the world outside didn't agree. For the first time in a long time, Jake let go of control. He allowed Lily to take charge, trusting her intuition. The colors began to blend organically, resulting in a unique abstract portrayal of their shared sanctuary. But beneath this liberating current rolled shadows of doubt. Was he doing enough to protect her innocence? As a single parent, every step felt balanced on a precipice. One miscalculation could plunge them into the depths he battled to keep her free from. This was more than just art, it was carving out a new identity for both of them, exposing the intricacies of their bond while testing its limits. As they painted into the evening, the light from the sun melted into soft hues, leaving a blanket of twilight that seeped into the studio. Jake caught a glimpse of vulnerability in Lily's eyes, a mixture of concentration and the fleeting tendency to slip into the past. "Does it feel good to let it out?" he ventured cautiously, addressing the emotional weight in the room. Lily paused, brush hovering above the canvas, before whispering, "Sometimes. But I think it's scary too." Her admission stirred something in Jake, a churning awareness that they both teetered on the edge of a significant transformation. The weight of her honesty anchored him. It was a moment of connection that blurred the lines between parent and child. "Scary can mean it. "'S important," Jake replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It means we're touching truths we can grow from." As he spoke, he realized they were not just painting a canvas but creating a dialogue about fear, resilience, and love. Yet, the burden of his untold story loomed large, unsaid but palpable in the air. What would happen when the paint dried, and the revelations on both sides seeped into their daily lives? On the brink of uncovering profound layers of themselves, Jake hesitated, heart increasingly heavy. Would he trap himself by navigating the labyrinth of his past or break through to heal both their wounds? With their collaboration awakening newfound potentials, the price of transformation hung in the balance. Could they weather the storm of their discoveries without succumbing to the currents drawing them apart? Jake drew in a shaky breath, realizing the moment was near. A confrontation with his own monsters was imminent. Would the brush guide him, or was he destined to remain lost in the shadows? As Lily stepped back to study their creation, her eyes sparkling with hope, Jake braced himself for the next stroke, not just on the canvas but within their shared journey. What awaited him just beyond the colorful waves they had crafted together? Would this be the step that led him back to himself, or a plunge too deep to recover from? Jake stepped back, a moment of silence enveloping the small studio as he surveyed their collective effort, a vibrant panorama of colors and emotions that spoke not just of the art but also of the bond he was striving to forge with Lily. The duality of his feelings, intricate, swirling, and raw, made him acutely aware of the consequences of their collaboration. Today was more than a painting session, it was a pivotal moment in both their lives, an opportunity to chisel away at the barriers that had previously separated them. As they sat cross-legged on the floor, paint-splattered and breathless with excitement, he glanced over at Lily. Her small hands, stained with various colors, were poised over the canvas, her eyes lighting up as she imbued each stroke with her youthful exuberance. Jake's heart swelled with a sense of fulfillment. She was not only claiming her space as an artist but actively reclaiming her childhood with him. "Can we add a dolphin in the water?" she asked eagerly, the innocent joy in her voice striking a deep chord within him. The concept alone was a leap toward an imaginative realm, a realm he had almost forgotten, buried under layers of obligation and responsibility. "Absolutely. But let us make it jump through a rainbow, okay?" he replied, his own excitement spilling out in laughter. With that, they began blending colors to craft the fantastical scene, laughter filling the air as their brushwork evolved into a lively portrayal of a magical underwater world. He immersed himself fully in the moment, allowing the colors to wash over him much like the waves they had painted onto the canvas. This was liberating, an activity that reaffirmed their connection, yet, deep in the recesses of his mind, a reality simmered. Even as they painted, joy, unresolved questions shadowed his enthusiasm. How could he share this energy and creativity not just through art but as a father? With each stroke of the brush, Jake felt layers of doubt peeling away. He had often defined himself through work, responsibilities, duties, the mechanical way of living, but here, surrounded by strokes of color, he had begun to redefine his roles. He envisioned himself not merely as her dad but as someone who could inspire her, take risks, and embrace vulnerability. "Lily," he said, trying to embrace her gaze, "do you think we could show this together to more people? I mean, our work." The question hung in the air, heavy with implications yet lightened by the buoyancy of freshly mixed paint. Her eyes widened, brimming with excitement. "Like a gallery? That would be so cool." There it was, the spark of the next step, ignited by the bravery they had both cultivated. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. Could he truly expose this piece of vulnerability, one that encapsulated their journey, their fears, and their victories? The gallery call loomed, bringing forth both pride and anxiety. "Yes, exactly like a gallery," he continued, grounding his voice against the rushing tide of memories. "And we can tell everyone about how it represents us, how we fought to connect." Something shifted in the air, the idea hung around them like the scent of wet paint, malleable and all-consuming. It demanded courage but promised recognition that this journey had indeed mattered. As they laid down finishing strokes, an awareness blossomed within him. This was growth not just artistic, but personal. He realized they were stepping beyond the canvas together, confronting emotional vulnerabilities that he had long buried. His past failures in connecting with Lily morphed into inspiration for the future, a trajectory that could now redirect the current of their lives. Hours melted away, and before he knew it, the canvas before them was complete. They stood before their creation, breathless, the room alive with colors that burst forth with stories of their struggles and resilience together. Jake turned to Lily, the corners of his mouth curling into a proud smile. "Are you ready to show the world this?" The query encapsulated months of fear, doubt, and hurdles they had climbed. "More than ready," she beamed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Jake filled with a sense of solid confidence that he had never known before. "Then let us outline a plan." As they brainstormed logistics for the exhibition, blending the lines of creativity and structure, Jake felt a pivotal shift. He was no longer merely a mechanic who dabbled in art when stressed. He was quickly evolving into something much greater, a father who embraced vulnerability, championed creativity, and allowed his daughter to flourish beside him. A week later, remarks started circulating in the community about their upcoming exhibition, aptly titled Reflections. Neighbors showed interest, friends began to RSVP. Jake felt giddy and grounded simultaneously, a newfound identity he had yearned for undulating with certainty now. Finally, the day arrived, and as they set up, the gallery buzzed with people, an air of excitement crackling like electricity. Jake's heart raced not from anxiety but with anticipation. He stood alongside Lily, both patiently waiting for the first guests to pour in. His courage swelled as he looked over at her. She was not just his daughter today but a co-creator, an artist in her own right. This shared path would forever alter the course of their relationship. He was transforming into a role model who proved that embracing creativity was as powerful as steering through the rugged currents of life. As waves of conversation flowed, Jake stood with his daughter, feeling a sense of triumph wash over him. With every expression and comment made about their art, he realized something vital: they had achieved together, transforming fears into a celebration of self-acceptance. He was no longer trapped under the weight of past failures, he was forging his identity anew. It was in this public space, flooded with warmth and validation, that Jake finally proved to himself that he could achieve not only for Lily but also for himself, reclaiming lost dreams, welcoming creativity, and building a relationship that now sparkled with hopes and shared stories. His heart swelled with pride as he looked down at her beaming face illuminated by a spectrum of colors and possibilities. The journey was just beginning. In that gallery, adorned with their shared artistry, Jake had realized profound fulfillment, not just through art but through strength of character and authenticity in fatherhood. He had conquered the doubts that had chased him for years, and as the final comments were offered by delighted guests, Jake knew he had not only transformed but had fundamentally altered the trajectory of his life alongside Lily. In a sea of compliments and connections, he found clarity. This wasn't just an exhibition. It was a legacy they had built together, an achievement of profound significance. Now, as they stood together taking in their beautiful creation, Jake understood that this newfound confidence was not merely about artistry or recognition but anchored in emotional authenticity, a beacon towards brighter futures for them both. It was more than he could have ever imagined, a testament to the power of vulnerability and the artistic journey that would thread through their shared lives, transforming their relationship forever. Don't wait even one more second to share this empowering conclusion with those who need to witness a remarkable transformation. You need to subscribe now to the channel to follow more exclusive emotional stories like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these transformative journeys reach others who may find hope. Comment your reactions and thoughts about this incredible journey. Let us keep this movement of personal growth alive and vibrant.